regular council meeting to order. Under presentations this evening, we have none. Could I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda with the addition of under number 2, original communications, delegations, and petitions. We had a late request from OCCAN from the Legion for the Montreal Old Timers. And just a notation under the Board of Police Commissioners, we have to have a vote again this evening. Josh declined his appointment, so Judy Firth will be doing Dennis Moore's Trudy, I'm sorry. Why did I put Judy? Trudy, sorry. Trudy Firth will be doing Dennis Moore's proxy this evening. So could we have a motion to adopt the agenda with those changes? Thank you. Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Frank. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, could I have a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the council meeting held on January 14th? Thank you. Councillor Nibbs, seconded by Councillor Vroba. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. And next, could I have a motion, please, to accept the minutes of the special council meeting held on January 18th, 2019? Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Nibbs. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from Pleasantdale School, request permission to develop an outdoor school. Please step up or sit up to the mic, and we'd be happy to hear your presentation. Did you need another chair maybe, or? Yeah, I can stand. Okay, thanks, Angela.
Hi, my name is Vanna March.
My name is Savannah Krupka.
And I'm Angela Smeltzer.
We represent our grade 8 class from Pleasantdale. Thank you so much for inviting us and taking the time to let us share our idea and for helping us with success for this initiative. We would be happy to answer questions you might have. We have come here today to talk about our shelter belt project.
Our grade 8 class wants to create an outdoor classroom for future classes.
We're anticipating about a 5-year implementation for the Functional Learning Center with elements such as a shelter belt, wildlife trees, interpretive trail, and possible picnic and garden area. And the girls think it would be best if we started as soon as possible.
The purpose of why we are doing this is to help natural habitat and to make a proper shelter belt for our school.
The area that we want to change is between Pleasantdale School property and Rollock Road.
We have been researching shelter belts and would like to propose that we create one in this space. There are no plans for any construction of any kind, so the improvements could be removed if council decided that they wanted to change the status of the land use.
We would need to remove old dead trees, then we would replace the soil. The current grade 8s would plant the new trees, and in the following years the classes would take care of them.
Some advantages of a shelter belt: we reduced wind that would act as visual screens.
It would control blowing snow and protect the buildings, especially protect the students at recess time and their teachers. It would decrease the energy consumption, we think, for the school building.
It would capture atmospheric carbon.
Providing habitat for wildlife.
And beautifying the land.
And increasing property value for the city.
We have talked to Mr. March as a representative of the city, the school board, and they are all on board with this project.
Another resource that's available to us is Shand, who we've been in contact with, and our local SCC at our school.
If we start in April, then by the time June rolls around, the trees should be planted and starting to grow.
The main tree we wanted to use for this project is Scots pine. We have picked this tree because it can live for many years and can grow up to 35 meters tall with a width of 1 meter. It is very good at surviving in very cold and very warm climates.
Another plant that we picked is the lilacs, and the lilacs would be there to protect these Scots pines that Savannah's talking about as they start to grow. The lilacs can grow up to 8 feet tall and 12 feet wide.
The final tree we have picked is the green ash. The green ash would take up to 16 to 60 years to reach full maturity of 18 meters. This will create a better shelter for our school. They survive well in different climates but need a lot of sunlight to produce.
We wanted to have the first row to be lilacs, the second row to be Scots pine, and the third row to be green ash.
We can see that in the future this will be a beautiful green space.
In our class, we're going to do some soil sampling to make sure that the soil is at the correct acidity.
We would have an easy homemade test to check if the soil is healthy or not, and Mr. March is going to show us some soil testing kits.
Some of the problems that we want to consider are the animal and plant monitoring in the area.
We have done some research on how to keep the area free of invasive species.
Prairie dogs, mosquitoes, and invasive small species are considered pests and may hurt our project area. So our pest control ideas are bat shelters, raptors nests, and keeping the area tidy.
All of the people in our class are so excited to take part of the project, one to be standing tall for many years to come.
Thank you for inviting us and giving us your attention.
Any questions or suggestions?
Okay, well, thank you very much, ladies. Great presentation, and obviously you did your homework. That was very well thought out of, and we thank Mr. March for helping you as well.
He's been absolutely wonderful for us so far. And this is just a kind of an area that you can see where this is the school building, and this is the back area that we're talking about, and you can see that part of it is school property and part of it is city property, so working together would be the best possible scenario.
Okay, excellent. Councillor Hopper?
Yeah, great job, guys. I'm really excited about this. I know for the summer games, a few of us were out there trying to do our best to mow and clean it up a little bit to make it a little better in appearance for the summer games, and we really didn't know anything about future use. We just hoped that someone might come along with an initiative at some point to do something with that land. So I think this is a great idea, and credit to you guys and your teacher for coming up with it and doing something to improve the area and the community and the environment all at the same time. So thank you very much.
We actually have quite a few plans. These grade 8s are going to get in on the end of it, or at the beginning of it, but the grade 7 class wants to create a garden in that area, that space that you were talking about, an indigenous garden, and that's where Shan comes in as well. So we're trying to get the whole schoolyard to become part of our classroom.
Fantastic.
Excellent. That's a great idea, and thank you, Rod, for your help in this as well. Councillor Vroba?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to say, I would recommend, you guys probably already thought of this, but just take lots of pictures. And so then every year, make sure future classes take those pictures so that in 20 years, they can look back and see the growth.
Yeah.
But I would like to recommend that we go ahead with this project.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Yanush, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I do want to say that I remember when I was a young little kid at St. Mary's School planting trees instead of a fence line. That's a long time ago. Planting trees instead of a fence line. And you go by there now and the shrubs are there. And it's kind of cool. So a good idea.
It is one of the things that the girls said when they were planning, and they wrote all this, and they've done several presentations, and one of them said, you know, we're going to come back and we're going to see these trees, and we're going to know we did this.
Super.
It's pretty cool.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Nibbs?
No, again, I think it's awesome. My kids went to that school, and I think it's a really good thing you guys are doing, so I'd definitely be in favor of it as well.
Okay, so you'll second that motion? Okay, thank you, Councillor Nibbs, and thank you, Angela, as well, for all of your efforts on
Yeah,
this.
you're welcome.
Good
Our
job.
grade 8 teacher is quite involved as well, Kyle Vibe, so
Okay,
I'm not doing this all by myself. We've got a good team over there.
excellent. Yes, you have a good team over
Yeah, we
there.
do.
Okay, all in favor?
There we go,
Carried.
girls.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
You're welcome to stay for the meeting, ladies. Some find it a little bit too boring, but it's totally up to you. Anyway, next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have Southeast Transportation Planning Committee minutes of January 2nd. Could I have a motion, please, for that? Councillor Yanush, seconded by Councillor Vroba. Any questions on the report as presented? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from the Estevan Strippers liquor event permit request. So what's the wish of council on that? Councillor Yanush.
Make a motion for acceptance and approval.
Okay, thank you for that. This will be at the Power Dodge Ice Center. The event is Estevan Strippers Molson Spring Bus Hockey Tournament on April 10th, 2019 to April 14th, Gesundheit, Travis, beginning at 2 p.m. and ending at 2 a.m. on April 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on April 14th. So this is to sell liquor in the Power Dodge Ice Center. So have we got a second?
Sorry, I think that should be the curling center.
It's the curling center?
Yes.
Okay, we stand corrected. City manager feels this is in the curling center. So Councillor Nibbs, you'll second that irregardless? Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from Envisions Counseling, request waiving or reducing the rental fees at the curling club. Estevan Counseling and Support Center is grateful for the relationship that was established during last year's fundraising partnership with Savor the Southeast Organizing Committee. In 2018, the city waived the rental fee for Affinity Place and provided top-level consulting with Diane Wenham and her crew for the event. The success of Savor the Southeast would not happen without enthusiastic participation of the City of Estevan and your staff. As 2019 begins, we're looking ahead for planning on our 25th anniversary in May. I have been advised by a city councilor or council member to request the use of the curling rink for our silver anniversary luncheon to be held on May 16th. We are asking for waived or reduced rental fees. We expect to host 350 people for the luncheon and would require round tables, the city chairs, a stage with a podium. The event will run from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. with no alcohol on the premises. Please call if you need further information. Sincerely, Tanya Andrist. She's the Resource Development Coordinator. So what's the wish of council on this one? Councillor Yanish.
Thank you, Worship. I make a motion that we waive the fee.
Okay. At the curling club?
Yeah, at the curling club.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Froba?
Thank you, Worship. I would second that because it states here it's $1,457, which would be a cost if we were to rent it to them. And I think that's something that we can do for them in kind without truly costing the city the actual dollars, so.
Okay,
I'll
thank
second
you.
it.
Yeah, and the other thing, we didn't have anything planned for that request for that day. It's not being used, so thank you for that. Any further questions? If not, go ahead, Councillor Vrobe.
Just a question, is the tablecloths, are we also in your motion, Councillor Yanish? Are you including the tablecloths? Because there's a note down here that the tablecloths are an extra rental.
Yeah, I'll include that in my motion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second that then.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have from the Estevan Humane Society. Wow, we're getting a lot of requests this evening. A request for free table rental for Whiskers and Wine Gala. So what's the wish of council? Councillor Travis?
I can speak to this as I'm on their board. This year they're doing the Whiskers and Wine Gala, which is this Saturday, and there's still tickets available if anybody's interested. This is going to be at the Exhibition Association's hall there. This is the second year doing it, and they've really bumped it up. We've got some amazing art that they're going to be auctioning off, some great local talent. Hook and Nail will be performing, as well as, I'm trying to remember the other band, as well as DJ will be there. So lots of great entertainment, and it's going to be a great meal. And this is all going towards our Humane Society, which is trying to do some pretty big improvements there. So
Absolutely.
good cause. So,
Okay.
so I would make the motion that we would waive the fees for the table rental.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Frank. Go ahead, Councillor Nibbs.
I would second his motion on that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carry. Next, we have from FCM, the option contribution for travel fund. Now, we did give this last year, but this is entirely up to council. Dear elected officials and members of SUMA, the FCM Travel Fund provides financial support to local government elected officials from Saskatchewan attending the FCM municipalities board and standing committee meetings. The travel fund is intended to ensure that smaller communities are represented at FCM and have the financial means to participate. The voluntary dues contribution is collected from Saskatchewan urban local governments by FCM and is remitted annually to the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association. SUMA manages the funds and administers the program to recipients. In order to be eligible for reimbursement of travel expenses, recipients must meet the following criteria: a local government elected official from an urban municipality or from a community outside Regina, Saskatoon, Moose Jaw, and PA, or from a community that contributes to the fund, or elected to FCM's board or appointed to a FCM standing committee. The long-term financial sustainability of the FCM Travel Fund is reliant on the voluntary contributions from Saskatchewan local governments and ensures that local governments of all sizes and locations in Saskatchewan have an equal opportunity to be represented at FCM. So, what they are looking at is $602 for our portion, if we were so willing. What's the wish of council? I know we did this last year. We don't have to do it this year. Maybe we want to revisit it next year. It's not something we have to do. Councillor Vroba?
And I think we talked about that last year too, that was something maybe we would do every other year. I know
Yeah.
it's not a large amount of money, but in the same breath, I was just saying to Councillor Yanish that I think technically we meet the criteria to apply for
Yeah,
sending
because we
someone
give,
to
yeah.
FCM. So I mean, that's another way to look at it too, is if we do give, at least we can every year apply, and maybe when we send 3 delegates, one of them could be potentially paid for one year.
Exactly.
So it's something else to think about, but I'm
Okay.
not sure if I'm in favor right now of really participating this year.
Okay, so perhaps this year we'll just forget the amount they're asking.
Unless anyone else is interested.
Okay, is anyone else interested? If not, we'll move on then. Okay, next, one last request from OSI and the Canadian Legion. I'm writing today to ask that the fees for the rental of Affinity Place and the multipurpose room at the Estevan Leisure Centre be waived or reduced for the Montreal Canadiens Alumni Tour taking place on February 24th. The Alumni Tour supports charitable organizations while allowing audiences of all ages to watch and meet the players that have made hockey history. In the past, Montreal Canadiens Alumni Tour has traveled across the world, including US, Germany, Austria, and Russia. Proceeds from the event will go to OSI-CAN, a joint project of the Canadian Mental Health Association, Saskatchewan Division, and the Royal Canadian Legion Saskatchewan Command. OSI-Canadian CAN is dedicated to helping serving members and veterans of the Canadian Forces, RCMP, and community first responders, which include municipal police, EMS, fire services, 911 operators, hospital trauma personnel, and corrections officers. As a committee, we're extremely excited to bring this unique opportunity to the residents of Estevan. Yours sincerely, Robert Godfrey. Go ahead, Councillor Nibbs.
Since this is at Affinity, I do believe we already have a reduced rate set up for nonprofit organizations. I wouldn't be in favor of waiving it all. We don't even do that for the grad class or any of the others, but I
Okay.
would be in favor of using
giving
the
them
reduced rate.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Vroba.
I agree 100% with Councillor Nibbs that because it's at Affinity and it would have been used that day, we go with the reduced rate so that we don't set a precedent for other people.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Nibbs, you'll make that motion. Councillor Vroba, you'll second. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Okay, carried. Councillor Hoffert, you're okay with it?
Yes.
Okay. Written reports of committees, Board of Police Commissioners. Josh LeBlanc has declined his appointment. Trudy Firth will be doing Dennis Moore's proxy. At this time, we'll request that the city clerk and the city manager get ready for the vote. So we will vote on the ones that are remaining that have applied, and that is Robin Polisuk, Kevin Smith, and Bernadette Wright.
You're just picking one, right?
Just pick one, please.
Where's my at? Flag.
Just fold it once. Okay,
I almost did it twice.
almost. Last time we did.
Would have avoided your ballot.
City clerk, thank you. No, that's okay. Jeff missed me. No, that's no problem. No problem. Just have to break a tie if I have to, yeah.
Does Access have some good commercials for us this time? It's a long wait, yeah.
Councillor Frank, sing it.
I want to get reelected next term.
I'm really excited to see what that project's gonna look like at Pleasant Hill School.
Yeah, I think it'll look great.
My
Yeah.
granddaughter goes to that school, so she's in grade 1, so 7 years she'll be helping out.
You definitely have a guy to help you with trees.
Yep.
Now, Rod and Cheryl, is this one of your daughters? Yes. So future park developer in Maine.
I can just hardly wait to get all those extra leaves on my front yard. Give me some exercise to go out there now.
Exactly.
You've got that fake grass though, so you
They
can
just
vacuum it
blow
up.
it up. Yeah,
No tie, Judy? There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Bernadette Wright is our member at large on the Police Commission. Could I have a motion, first of all, to have Bernadette Wright put on the Board of Police Commissioners? Thank you. Councillor Yanish, seconded by our other police board member, Councillor Nibbs. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, could I have a motion, please, to dispose of the ballots? Councillor Frank, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Nibbs. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Did you accept Josh?
Oh, also, Josh, I guess, thank you, City Clerk. We should accept Josh LeBlanc's resignation with regret. Could we have a motion, please, for that? Thank you, Councillor Nibbs, seconded by Councillor Yanish. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have from Trudy Firth, our treasurer, the 2019 budget approval. Now, this has been online, City Manager, for a few weeks. Did we have any feedback? Not a whole lot.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't think we received any written feedback. I did have assistant come into my office to ask for clarification on what was potentially happening with the police station, and also indicated that we need to raise taxes something to keep up with times. So I was surprised by that, but that was the only formal person that came into City Hall.
Okay, thank you. And we had, Trudy and I had Malcolm Herman from Woodley come in, and we had a good discussion. So, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Vroma.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe we did receive an email from a lady that had quite a few good
Oh,
points.
yes, from
Yeah, I hope that
Miss
you-
Dietz. Yes,
Yeah, I
that
don't know
was-
if we were gonna.
Yes, that was a very good email.
It was. I unfortunately didn't respond back to her because her email
did.
wasn't with her, and so.
I did.
Yeah, it wasn't in the communication that I received, but I did think that a lot of her points were valid.
They were very
Some were
good.
actually answered further down or in the budget, and I figured you probably had answered
Yes.
those for her, but
Yes, I
yes,
did.
other than that, I didn't receive any other feedback except for the fact about our splash park. I did have a few people mention that they felt that we had enough splash parks in Estevan, but I don't know if anyone else had heard any other feedback, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Yanish?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I do have one other one. We did have a good write-up in the Mercury from Mr. Wilberg about the tax what we're planning
Yes,
for a
thank you.
budget. So David had a really good write-up in the Mercury.
Yeah, I agree. That was a very good write-up, Dave. Thank you for that, and you brought up a lot of good points. So we did have some feedback, and we thank everyone that gave us that. Absolutely. Councillor Frank?
Just the feedback I received, I oddly enough had a few people mention that no tax increase seems like a poor choice, which is the opposite of what you would expect, but it's nice to hear that people understand the value of them, but I think we're all pretty happy with not doing one. That's always great. I also had some people mention about the splash park, but I think that comes from maybe some criticism, and anybody I've talked to anyways, and have talked with them, is maybe criticism from previous years where, previously we had to redo another splash parks, just wasn't, whether it was maintenance or just too old or whatever. So I think people are just not maybe accustomed to some of the level of quality we're able to give our parks and things like that. At least that's the feedback I got and was able to. So I still, I'm happy with that.
Exactly. Thank you, Councillor Frank. Councillor Vroba?
Thank you, Worship. I should have mentioned some of the feedback about Splash Park was more that they were more interested in a larger outdoor pool coming to the Estevan area versus a splash park. So maybe it wasn't just so much that just a splash park. But the other thing is, just 2 years ago when our grants and stuff were cut, we basically did an 8% tax increase. So we did a lot of the hard work 3 years ago, and I mean, the council before us did a lot of the tax increases too to get us into where we needed to be in a budget position. And I think all of us, the council, myself for sure, I'm speaking for, I felt that the way the economy is right now, that a 0% tax increase was just something people needed to hear this year. So I still stick by what we did, and I guess anyone that wants a tax increase, we could help them out maybe next year. But this year, I'm glad we went with the 0.
Thank you, Councillor Vroba. I agree. And, we'll see what next year brings. Councillor Nibs or Councillor?
I'll just reiterate to that too. I know when we were at SUMA this weekend, hearing what all of the other cities were doing, and a lot of them are still blaming that grant cut from a few years ago. So it's nice.
Yeah,
that
from the provincial government.
we covered that, we accomplished it, and now we don't have to worry about that. So
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Councillor Frank. We passed that on at the time, and then we were done with it. I mean, as much as we were hit, unfortunately, we passed that on, and then it was over. Some of the cities waited, and now they're doing that after the fact. I don't think we've heard from City Clerk Martinsville and one other on what their tax increase was, but the rest average from 2.5, 2.9 to over 4%. So I think Saskatoon was 4.25. So yeah, it was quite hefty, some of them. So having said that, we would like, Councillor Nibs, sorry.
I did also have two people phone me questioning the no tax increase, which again, I thought was really strange. You just can't win in this thing at all. But they were just questioning whether we were going back to our old ways and then having to hit them with 16% and
that's a
8%
valid
and all
point,
these things.
yeah.
And so I did assure them that we will make sure they get one for re-election time. But I think the days of the big ones, unless the government, what I had said was unless the government changes something that we don't foresee, there shouldn't be any big ones. So I was,
Exactly.
they were really hoping they didn't get an 8 next year or a 9 next year and
Yeah.
a 0 this year, rather get a little bit each year. So that was
Yeah.
just the concern I had from the two people, which no one actually phoned and said, great job to not do 0.
Okay. Well, thank you, Councillor Nibs, and that's very true. I mean, most of the heavy lifting now has been done, and hopefully the increases moving forward will be incremental. Absolutely right. Okay, thank you, and I'd like to thank our staff, City Manager Trudy, for all of your hard work on this, and everyone that helped you to get to this point and put this package together. Do you have any thoughts, comments? Okay, well, thank you again. You did a tremendous job. I know City Manager was involved, and I'd like to thank you and all of the city staff that helped out in this, did a fabulous job. So do we have a motion, please, to accept the 2019 budget? Councillor Frank? Councillor Nibs? Any further comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, from the tax assessor, list of land in arrears. Could we have a motion, please, to accept those as presented? Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Nibs. Any further questions? Thank you, guys. I know you guys are doing all the heavy lifting over there. I'm telling you.
So you're actually going to forgive anything that was
Oh, okay, and also could we have in your motion to remove from the presented list any property which owes less than half of the previous year's levy? Will that be included, Councillor Nibbs? Councillor Frank, you're okay with that? Okay, thank you. Councillor Groba.
I just have a question to clarify. When you say remove, those people are not being, they still have to pay their taxes. They're not being forgiven for the
No.
amounts owed. I just wanted to clarify that.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Next, we have from Rod March, our Parks Manager, the 2019 flower tender. What's the wish of council on this? Councillor Hoffert, thank you. Councillor Nibb, seconder. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, next from Shane Bruces, our Water Services Manager, Phase 1 of the raw water treatment pipeline tender. So Shane, thank you for coming tonight. Would you like to just briefly give us an overview of that, please?
As part of the Canada Grants funding, we had two major projects that we had to complete under that. Part 1 would have been the completion of the lagoons for the wastewater from the water treatment plant, and that was completed. Part 2 is to provide a new raw water source to the city. Now, last year, we sent out the tender for the complete project, and it came in significantly over budget, where the city would have to eat up the cost of the extra $7 million to get the project done. So then we went back, and with the engineers, we took a look at the project to see how we could make it cheaper. Basically, we're going to split it up into 3 different phases. Phase 1 is the one that the tender was sent out for. Phase 2 is to complete the raw water intake, and Phase 3 is completion of the line from Phase 1 to the new raw water intake. Now, we also decreased the pipe size from 600 millimeters down to 500 millimeters. In that, our price last year was $255 a meter for the pipe. Now installed is $242 a meter. So basically put it in the ground, it's saved us a bunch by going down in pipe size. As well as when we reduced the size of the overall project, we were able to get a lot more companies interested, which then drove down the price of the project. So at this time, with KGS Group, our engineering firm, having no issues with the lowest tender, I would suggest that we award the contract to GCS Energy for $2,768,083, or $83.53.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Shane, and thank you for all of your work on this. I know you worked very hard on this, as well as all of the staff that helped you, so thank you so much for your efforts on that. What's the wish of council on this tender?
Can we ask questions?
Councillor Hoffer?
Can we ask questions at this point?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for your work on this and your presentation that we got this afternoon. I guess a couple of questions. One is, with regards to our initial budget, that we were trying to do something to bring it under, so our initial budget was way low from what the bids ended up at, and so we're doing this to bring it down. And we'll be retendering each of the 3 phases?
Yes, we'll be retendering all the phases.
Okay, so did we re-estimate all 3 phases of this then? And where did this fall with our estimate for this phase? Is it right on target this time? Is it above, below? Or I guess the question is, how do we feel based on seeing this, that the overall project cost is going to come in?
Well, Shane said we're already, what, half of what the other one was?
For install. So on this part, it dropped down the price.
Half on the phase 1.
Half on phase 1.
Half on phase 1.
What the original was.
Yeah, that's what I did hear him actually, Your Worship. I'm just asking now on the overall project, what do you think?
On the overall project, this puts it in line to be very close.
Okay.
to what we budgeted for.
Okay, Councillor Nibbs.
What if it isn't? What if we put in this line for $2 million and we get to phase two and it's $2 million, and then we get to the last one and it's $8 million, and we're set the same amount? I understand doing the 3 separate tenders, but what happens if we hit a roadblock? Do we just quit the project, or then is the city on the hook for the rest? It's my only question.
The city has to complete the project by 2021, or else we have to pay back all government funding, which would be $6.66 million.
Agreed. I'm saying, how do we
Yeah.
budget for if it doesn't come in where we're hoping it comes in, though?
We would have to look at either paying the cost or re-engineering the project at that time to bring it down.
Yeah, go ahead, City Manager.
Councillor Nibbs, there's also some other things we're working with the engineering group that would significantly bring this under budget, and it's at a point that we can discuss it in a closed session of why this would bring it to our budget amount of $9 million.
Or less. Yeah.
But it's not something to be discussed in open.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Yanish.
Thank you, Worship. Shane, by reducing this pipe size, is that going to affect anything major for supply or anything like that? I know it reduced cost, but if it's going to restrict our flow and stuff like that, is it going to make a big difference?
For flow-wise, the long term, the pipeline at 600 millimeters would have been the long term for 40 years. By dropping it down, we lower the life or growth curves to 30 to 35 years. Now, with that too, that was consensus at 2011 when Estevan was seeing a large growth and large water spike use. So now that the kind of boom's kind of gone, we've seen kind of a steady out of our raw water, and that would probably bring it back up to 40 years. It's not something that it's been engineered to check with.
Okay, any other questions? If not, have we got a motion to move forward with the lowest tender? Thank you, Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Nibbs. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Next. We have from the fire chief the fire reports for December. Could we have a motion, please, to accept them? Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor Groba. Thanks, guys. Good evening. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under introduction of bylaws, we have none this evening. Public hearings and reports, we have none. Giving notice, we have none. Motions from committee, we have none. Consideration of bylaws, we have none. Inquiries, Councillor Hoffer. Okay, thank you. Councillor Groba.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, I just wanted to say that on Saturday night, I went to my first ever horse racing game. I actually brought the city horse there. I believe his nickname is Old Roy, but I'm not
You did have to bring that up.
Yeah, so
Okay.
basically, I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of people there, and we're already planning for next year. So if you've heard about it but never attended, I would recommend you go next year because the planning is already in stages. So, yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Frank, for inviting me to go, and it was a good time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Groba, and I hope you looked after old Roy, fed him accordingly, and didn't beat him too bad.
No, he's back in the stable. I put him
Oh,
there tonight.
good. Thank you for that. Councillor Yadish? Okay, thank you. Councillor Frank?
Yes, and thank you, Councillor Verova, for going. And I had my personal horse Hudson was ready to go, and unfortunately I had some issues at home, so we weren't able to make it. But I'm glad Councillor Verova was able to go, and thank you to everybody who did come out and support the art gallery. So
Absolutely. Thank you all. Councillor Nibbs?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to give a shout out to the city crews for the great job on the snow removal. I've heard nothing but compliments how fast it was done. They really have that down to a science, and looks like they might have to do it again.
Absolutely, yes. We thank Norm and all his crew, and all our employees are doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much. City Clerk?
Nothing, Your Worship.
City Treasurer? Okay, with that, do we have a motion to move into committee Councillor Hoffert, seconded by Councillor Broba. All in favor? Carried. Thank you so much. We stand adjourned.